The neon sign of the Veterans Club flickered in the perpetual twilight of Station Kepler 442, casting pale blue shadows across the corridor. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of recycled oxygen and cheap synthetic whiskey. Nathan sat at the corner table, his weathered hands wrapped around a glass he hadn't touched in 20 minutes. The cybernetic implant along his jaw hummed softly, a reminder of battles fought in systems whose names civilians could barely pronounce. The door hissed open. Every head in the bar turned. Veterans had instincts that never dulled, even decades after hanging up their combat suits. But what stumbled through the entrance wasn't a threat, at least not in any conventional sense. She was small, no more than 4 feet tall, with luminescent skin that shimmered between violet and silver. Her species, Quilani, Nathan recognized after a moment, were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful traders and artists. This child wore a tattered dress that might have been elegant once, now stained with something dark and viscous. Her 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern on her delicate face, were streaming with bioluminescent tears that left glowing trails down her cheeks. "Please," she gasped in heavily accented standard, "they hurt my mama. Please help." The bar fell silent. Even the ancient jukebox in the corner seemed to sense the gravity of the moment and cut off mid-song. Nathan felt something cold settle in his chest, something he'd thought he'd buried 20 years ago when he'd retired from the Terran Defense Corps. He pushed back from the table, his chair scraping against the metal floor. "Where's your mother?" "Kid." His voice came out rougher than intended. The girl, she couldn't have been more than their equivalent of 8 years old, pointed toward the lower levels with a trembling appendage. "The cargo bay, Section 9, the Vortan traders. They said Mama owed them credits. She didn't. She didn't." Her voice cracked. "They're going to sell her to the labor ships." A murmur rippled through the club. The Vortans were a particularly nasty piece of work, a species that had built an empire on exploitation and slavery, operating in the gray zones where Galactic Council authority was more suggestion than law. "How many?" asked a voice from the shadows. Layla emerged from the back booth, her dark eyes sharp despite the scars that ran like rivers across her bronze skin. She'd been Corps 2, Special Operations, if Nathan remembered correctly. The kind of soldier who made other soldiers nervous. "6, the child whispered. "Big ones, with plasma rifles." Nathan and Layla exchanged a glance. Around them, other veterans were slowly standing. Marcus, who'd lost both legs at the siege of Proxima. Chen, whose face was more reconstruction mesh than original tissue. Davidson, who hadn't spoken a word since the massacre at Trappist 1E, but whose hands were steady as they checked an old pulse pistol pulled from a concealed holster. "Station security?" Nathan asked, though he already knew the answer. The girl shook her head frantically. "They paid them. The guards just walked away." Of course they did. Kepler 442 wasn't a core world. Out here on the rim, law was whatever the highest bidder said it was. Nathan felt the old anger igniting in his veins, the same righteous fury that had carried him through 3 wars and more firefights than he could count. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy, one earned in blood and fire. When pushed, when confronted with injustice, they didn't calculate odds. They didn't file diplomatic protests. They acted. "Layla," he said quietly. She was already moving, her hand disappearing into her jacket and emerging with a compact railgun that was definitely illegal on most civilized stations. "Cargo Bay 9. I know it. 3 entry points, minimal cover. Likely they've posted a lookout." "Marcus, Chen, you're on the west entrance. Davidson, watch our 6. Nathan pulled his old service weapon from beneath the bar where he'd stashed it years ago, swearing he'd never need it again. The grip felt like coming home. "Non-lethal if possible." Layla's smile was sharp as broken glass. "And if not possible?" Nathan looked down at the alien child, at her glowing tears and terrified eyes. He thought about all the reasons he'd fought in the wars. Not for territory or resources or political ideology. Those were just the excuses. The real reason, the thing that made humans dangerous, was simpler and far more primal. They protected the weak. "Then we remind the galaxy why humans don't retire," he said. "We just reload." The Veterans Club emptied in less than a minute. 17 former soldiers, average age 63, armed with weapons that should have been in museums, moving with the practiced efficiency of those who danced with death and learned its steps. The cargo bay was exactly where the child said it would be. The Vortans were there too. Massive creatures, 8 feet of muscle and chitin, their mandibles clicking in what passed for laughter. In the center of the bay, a Quilani female was chained to a cargo container, her elegant form bruised and broken. The lookout never even had time to raise the alarm. Layla's first shot dropped him silently. Then Nathan stepped into the light, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying across the bay with military precision, "you've made a mistake." The largest Vortan, clearly the leader, turned. His translator unit crackled. "Human, this is not your concern. These are legal salvage rights." "I'm going to give you one chance," Nathan interrupted, raising his weapon. Behind him, his fellow veterans fanned out with practiced precision. "Let her go. Leave this station. Never come back." The Vortan's laugh was like grinding metal. 17 aged humans? We are 6 Vortan warriors. He never finished the sentence. What happened next would become legend on the rim stations. 17 aged humans, moving like they'd never left the service, executing a rescue operation with such brutal efficiency that station sensors would later struggle to reconstruct the timeline. Plasma fire met railgun rounds. Vortan combat armor, rated to withstand military-grade weapons, proved inadequate against humans who knew exactly where to aim. It was over in 90 seconds. The Quilani mother collapsed into her daughter's arms, sobbing. The Vortans, those who could still move, fled to their ship, nursing injuries that would take months to heal. Station security, hearing the firefight, arrived precisely 7 minutes too late and found nothing but grateful civilians and veterans calmly holstering weapons that didn't officially exist. Nathan watched as the alien child clung to her mother, their bioluminescent tears mingling in pools of light on the deck plating. Layla stood beside him, reloading her railgun with movements so automatic they were practically meditation. "We're going to hear about this," she said quietly. "Galactic Council. Probably some strongly worded letters." Nathan shrugged. "Let them write. Some things don't change no matter how old you get." "Like what?" He smiled, a rare expression that softened the hard lines of his face. "Humans don't leave anyone behind. Not in war, not in peace, not ever." The little girl looked up at him, her 4 eyes wide with something between awe and adoration. In halting standard, she asked, "Why did you help us? We're not your species." Nathan knelt down, his cybernetic knee whirring softly. He met her gaze with the kind of certainty that had carried him through 3 decades of service. "Kid," he said gently, "out here on the rim, there's only one species that matters, the ones who need help. The rest is just details." Behind them, the Veterans Club sign flickered back to life, its neon glow a beacon in the darkness. Inside, the jukebox started playing again, an old Terran song about coming home. The veterans filed back in, weapons disappearing into concealment, settling back into their chairs as if they'd never left. But the galaxy knew. Word spread fast on the rim. The humans, those death-world apes who'd clawed their way to the stars, they hadn't gone soft in retirement. They'd just been waiting for a reason to remember who they were. And the predators who hunted the weak learned an old lesson anew. Never threaten the innocent where humans can hear their cries. Never.